So, I made a survey to capture the views of non-vegans on veganism. I'll be honest, I made it a little bit out of frustration, because I felt like I can't really be bothered to see everybody individually change their minds about whether or not it's okay to murder and abuse animals for their own pleasures. And I kind of thought, can we jump the gun and just get this fast track through the legal system? The answer's probably no, but put together a little survey anyway. I've only captured the views of 40 people, 40 internet strangers, and their views on veganism in response to a few questions that I put together. It is a little bit funny, in that I basically live in my little vegan world. I don't think that's a problem. I think the problem with it is that it's little. Come and join the little vegan world and let's make it bigger. In this little world, no one has to die unnecessarily. Not promising immortality. Anyhow, here's the survey and we'll go through and see what the results mean. I was kind of trying to get an idea about where to direct activism, but it is kind of scattered. But anyhow, let's just see what people said. Question 1 was, are you a vegan? Which, as we all know, has 2 responses, but I did add a third just in case there were any on the fence identification issues that might have people calling themselves vegans that aren't, just because they're trying and they feel like they're vegan in attitude, but they're not vegans. So I've mocked them up with this middle of the road answer of being a vegetarian or trying to move towards veganism. Second question, do you agree with the statement that veganism makes sense to me ethically, but I feel that adopting a vegan lifestyle would not have a significant enough impact? For that, the answers available are yes, which we say this person maybe wants to go vegan, doesn't feel that it'll have enough impact, so maybe someone just needs to force the rule upon more people. Or there's no, veganism doesn't make sense to me ethically. This person needs to probably know a bit more about veganism then. And the third option, no, veganism makes sense to me and I do think it makes a difference, which these people probably just need to be held to account so that they can just go vegan. It sounds like they should. Question number 3, which is kind of the main thing I wanted to just test the waters about. If you were able to vote to end animal agriculture, what would you choose? I think we know how this one's going to go. Yes, end animal agriculture. No, I want animal agriculture to end, but I don't think it's right to make it law. Or no, I don't want animal agriculture to stop. Those are your 3 options there. And next, I thought I'd just bolt on a little bit more, another question just to capture opinions, because this can help with directing activism, or really, I admit that I live in my little vegan world, and it helps to kind of gather points of views and perspectives from people who are not vegans so that I know what the issues are that we're supposed to be driving after, Where are the big wins? What are the main obstacles? What are the stories that we need to defeat? I mean, I think we know it's all of them a little bit, but options available are... And this is funny because someone did feedback that they felt attacked by the questions, but I really wasn't aiming, I wasn't trying to. I was literally just phrasing things as I would phrase them in a neutral way. I felt that I was just accurately explaining what happened, but it still felt like an attack, which maybe that just means that the truth the truth hurts. I don't know. Maybe I'm supposed to phrase it in a way that's a bit more coddling, but I also don't want to make someone feel like, I don't know. I did also want people to have to tick the thing that most applies for them, and for it not to be made, for it not to be worded in a way that's intentionally to make them comfortable with it. Call it what it is. Tick that box. That's what you're doing. It's a confession. But yeah. So options are: veganism seems too hard or complicated for me. I do not believe that I can be healthy as a vegan. I do not believe that I can afford to be a vegan. I am able not to think about the consequences, so I don't. I do not know enough about veganism. I'm not compassionate towards animals, and the people in my life would make this difficult or impossible for me. And the last one, I think giving up the enjoyment of the taste of animal products is too great a sacrifice. And then other, which is an open text field, and boy, was that a gamble. I think I know why people felt attacked, and it was likely the enjoyment of the taste of animal products is too great a sacrifice. And I think maybe the choosing to be ignorant one, but I mean, I literally don't know how else I could have phrased that without just being a total apologist. But, and I mean, that's not the point. I was trying to be more neutral in my language. So, final question. If 50% of people adopted a vegan lifestyle, would you join them? To which the answers are either yes, no, it would need to be higher, or 100% of people, and no, this would not influence me. So, let's go to the survey results. So like I say, I've got 40 responses. There were actually 2 people who responded who were vegan. I did specifically, when canvassing, ask for non-vegans only, but I totally understand why a vegan would fill this in anyway, because when you care about something, you kind of can't resist but to look at it and engage with it, you know? You care about being vegan, and you care about the animals, you care about doing the right things. When you see a survey about attitudes toward veganism, you probably, even if you're sort of begged not to, you probably think, no, I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to get involved. But naughty, you used up 2 of my spots. Anyway, so we got 2 vegan responses. I've checked ahead what their responses were so I can sort of mentally eliminate them from the total at the end. We've got 4 who are vegetarian or trying to move towards veganism, so we'd imagine them to have more sympathetic views towards animals, and 34 who are not. So I guess that's sort of the wealth of where those attitudes are that we're trying to address. So on to question 2. Let's see what everyone thinks about whether or not veganism makes sense ethically, and whether or not they think adopting a lifestyle would actually make a difference. The answers are yes, which means that they think it makes sense ethically, but they don't think it makes a difference. And 6 people said yes to that. That's 15% of people. 28 said no, it doesn't make sense to them ethically, so obviously why would they bother? That's 28% of people. And 56% of people, this does include the 2 vegans, so it's actually 20 people, it's a little less than 56%, responded saying that veganism does make sense and they do think it makes a difference. So to those people, you kind of think, okay, well then you should just go vegan. To the people who answered that yes, well, to the 6 people that answered that yes, veganism does make sense ethically, but they don't think it makes a difference, you would think those people would opt for it to be built into law then, you know, if it's the right thing to do, but they just don't think they can make a difference unless everybody changes. Then that's where to the other 2 questions, you'd expect them to respond positively. So, if you're able to vote to end animal agriculture, what would you choose? Yes, and animal agriculture, we have 7 respondents saying yes. 1 person skipped. 7 respondents saying yes, and that's 18% of respondents. Obviously that includes the vegans, so we've only got 5 in the non-vegan category that would vote for this. We've got 25 or 26% of respondents who say that they do want animal agriculture to end, but they think it's wrong to write it into law. I don't know why. Is that cheeky? No, I really don't. If you think that something's wrong, do you really think it's wrong to stop people from doing it? I mean, it depends on what it is, but I mean, we're not talking about personal choice here. We are talking about something with victims, so that doesn't make sense to me, but okay, whatever. That's what they've opted for. And no, I don't want animal agriculture to stop is 56% of people, which, if I reflect back up here, that means that people want animal agriculture to continue, but they do think veganism makes sense ethically. We've really got a scramble of values, really scrambled up. Okay, so question 4. Select all the statements that apply to you. So this is one, there are multiple, you can select multiple, 3 people skipped it, you can select multiple options, you can give your own comments in other, but ultimately these are the categories that they're picking from, and we can see that we have steamrolling into the lead. They can select multiple. One that shows up for nearly everyone is, I think that giving up the enjoyment of the taste of animal products is too great a sacrifice. So I suppose for the movement that means that promoting the alternatives that are available today and kind of fighting back against that veganism, vegan food taste gross message is probably an effective bit of activism for a lot of people, because I think, in all honesty, where they bunch a lot of these reasons together, this is probably the one, really, where people just aren't letting go of some of the other stuff, like it's seeming hard or whatever. I think if they weren't so attached to the taste, you'd find a way, you know? I think this is ultimately the bit that's desire, and it blocks a lot of the others, but it's shown up so frequently. Obviously, the taste issue, the attachment that people have to animal products, and the lack of awareness that people probably have about the vegan options is going to be a big win. What else do we have? So, second place, or the second most commonly cited, is that they don't believe they can be healthy as a vegan. This is concerning because, well, for those of us who are part of the vegan movement, I think we can probably all say that we are very aware of a lot of really healthy vegans. We're aware of a lot of people who've become more healthy as vegans. We've probably looked at a lot more of the medical literature than your average meat eater, and we're finding that, you can definitely be healthy as a vegan. In fact, the majority of people can be healthy, so although there might be a handful of people who've been given specific advice from a doctor to say that they can't, that's not 43% of people. So this is a misinformation problem, and this is where we need to really respond to some of the misinformation that's out there. So, I'm not surprised, because there is this approach in the media whereby if ever anything's being discussed, or every side of the case gets some sort of representative. I mean, some of them will get talked over, don't get me wrong. If you go into conversation with Piers Morgan and you're a vegan, you're going to get talked over. Meanwhile, he'll invite his pal, Dr. Friend Hilary Jones, on to talk about how difficult and complicated vegan diets are. And it's possible, but only if you plan it down, down to eat the grain of rice that you eat. This is really quite biased reporting, but even in cases where they do have we get someone with each opinion onto a panel and they get to speak for equal time, there's nothing tangible there for someone to hold on to. Nobody can really draw a safe conclusion based on what's represented to them. So I guess there's a drive for shouting our case louder, which I know a lot of people are, or really for people to independently seek information, but obviously that's risky because, well, you've seen the internet. Anyway, in third place, most common, is that veganism looks too hard or complicated for me. And this kind of falls into the first two a little bit. It's, how do I prepare and cook vegan foods? I guess different people have different needs. And, I think there's a lot of options that are visible and out there. It feels like so many of these have been hit by so many people that nearly all of our respondents have hit some combination of I like the taste, it seems hard, I can't be healthy, it's this stack of lack of knowledge, really, about how to do things in a tasty and healthy way. And I feel like we're trying to give that knowledge, but no one really has a want to seek it unless they're really motivated to go vegan anyway. Who's going to look up loads of vegan recipe ideas or how to plan a vegan budget or whatever if they don't want to do it? So, the myth-busting thing's kind of tricky. I don't think I can afford to be vegan, and that makes me really sad, because either they genuinely can't afford to be vegan, which, I mean, this is 29.73% of respondents to a survey, an online survey, and I just don't see it. It might be the case for some people, I don't know, but I don't think that of this survey of people who are, at leisure using the internet to fill out surveys about their opinions on veganism, I don't think 29.73% can't afford to buy fruits and veg and grains, or even to buy the cheap alternatives to vegan products. I just don't. That doesn't feel true. And if those people hold the view that they can't afford to be vegan, and that alone is what prevents them, and it's not stacked onto, if it's stacked onto I don't want to give up the taste, then it's not true that you can't afford to, you just don't want to. And you lean into that because it makes you feel better. Maybe you haven't done the research to find out. But if there are people who genuinely want to go vegan, but the choice to go vegan, they feel they don't have access to that choice for financial reasons, that really hurts. I'd hate to be in that situation. That makes me really sad. And for those people, I don't believe that it is the case, so I feel that they've had their choice taken from them. I feel that their choice has been hidden from them by people who lie about how expensive veganism is. And I think that's devastating, and I think it's an abuse of manipulation of people from lower income backgrounds. So there's that. Next, what have we got is 24% of people saying, I'm able to not think about the consequences, so I don't. I think that's quite an honest answer, really. I think that's a hard box for someone to tick. Because I know that I've not phrased these in a way to be intentionally provocative, I just think that's... Is that provocative? Because some of the feedback I got suggested that it might be, but is it? Because I just think that's how I would accurately phrase that statement, you know, you out of sight, out of mind. I don't know, but I think it's honest to tick that box. But does that mean that we need some sort of activism where we force it into labelling or something? Should we be pushing... Sometimes I think about street activists showing footage of what happens in dairy farms, what happens on meat farms, and I kind of think, you know, right on, you're doing a great job. You bring the truth to the people. If they're not going to seek it out for themselves, that's great. But I feel like, why are you doing the job of the manufacturer? You know, the people who produce this stuff, the people who profit from it, should be held to account. They should have to be honest about the product that they're selling. They should owe people the truth. You shouldn't have to go out on the streets to show people what's happening in these farms, because it should be all over the packaging. That's the responsibility of the producer. I think that's, well, and it's not just about the meat industry. That's just being accountable. That's how you hold people to account to make better product. So I'd push for more transparency from the industry about that sort of thing. Yeah, what else have we got? So these are getting into the less common ones that people state now, and we have, I'm not compassionate towards animals, 16% of people, which means the majority of people that responded felt that they were compassionate towards animals, but obviously feel that they don't make the choice to use that compassion, to actually celebrate and lean into that compassion, because of all of the other boxes that they've ticked, which is really sad. Be your true self, please. Please be the you that you actually want to be, and that you is a person who doesn't abuse animals. Oh, sorry, ahead of that, 21.6% we've got people in my life would make it difficult or impossible for me, which is devastating. Wanting to go vegan but not being allowed to, or thinking that it's going to cause instability in your home life, just makes me really worried about the other choices that these people can't aren't free to make for themselves, or the way that other people dictate. Yeah, that worries me. I'd hate to be in that situation. I can't imagine the lack of peace that you face having to be enforced by other people to engage. But then, I mean, if they've ticked that amongst other boxes, then again, is it true, or do you just think, oh, I don't like the taste? I could probably push harder in my life, but it wouldn't be easy, and I like the taste of animal products anyway, so I'm not going to bother. That is a little bit different to genuinely wanting to and being told that you can't. And then the least common one is, I don't know enough about veganism, which only 5.4% of people responded, but I've got to be honest, I think that probably applies to a lot of them. Like, if you're saying that veganism's too hard or complicated, then I think that in all likelihood, I don't think it is too hard or complicated for 35% of people, so in all likelihood, you probably don't know enough about veganism. That one might be the answer. So 15 people sent comments, and whew, I took a risk by opening that up. What have we got? Oh, let's open them up. Wow. I think it's a bit silly to try to walk away from omnivory entirely, especially things like eggs. Chickens literally lay them, regardless of what humans do with them. There can be ethical animal product production. Barring it entirely is a step too far. Humans are omnivores. To that, I've got to say, held to your own message. You might think that barring it is a step too far, but what step have you taken? Even if you think, which I don't share this view, but even if you think that you can have a world where animal products can be as ethical as just finding eggs that birds lay in the wild, is that what you're doing, or are you buying factory farmed produce? I think it's a bit out of line to start dictating what you think the standard should be on an issue that you obviously don't really care about. You only care about it when you're challenged via a survey, via an anonymous survey. That's the only point where you seem to have any point of passion, because otherwise you'd be doing something in your life about it, wouldn't you? Yeah, I don't value your input. And no, there can't be ethical animal product production, because try and I mean, despite the fact that it's exploitation anyway, even if it was just between you and your cow, it's still being exploitative. Try and feed the world without exploiting any animals. Try and feed the world with animal products without having to engage in all the abuses that go on at the moment. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting process, but it's driven by the necessity of feeding so many people things that they don't need. Okay, response number 2, really helpful. Animals aren't people. What did I ask again? You won't go vegan because animals aren't people. I mean, I guess you could argue that they have personhood. They're not humans, but And does that apply to all animals? I mean, all animals aren't people, but if that's the rule, ooh, that person might be in a... I mean, maybe I should have added a fourth category right at the start. Are you vegan? Yes, no, I'm vegetarian. No, and no, I eat literally anything that isn't human. Wow, that's dark. I don't know if you mean what you say. I think I do now. Have other food sensitivities that that are expensive. Can't afford to also go vegan. Well, that's a shame. I don't know what those food sensitivities are that are expensive. So, I mean, I want to sit down and go through this person's budget. I mean, I can't dictate someone else's life. I don't know what their expenses are, so I can't really say, hey, I know you could do it, but I bet there are switches that this person could make without having to spend more to go vegan. Obviously, it depends on what their sensitivity is, but I don't know. I bet they could. I bet we could figure something out. I'd like to. We should have some sort of vegan consultation thing for people who genuinely want to. For people who genuinely do want to go vegan but have a problem like, I don't know how to get around this financially, I don't think I can afford it, or I don't know how to plan my meals, I think it's too complicated, etc. I think for those people we genuinely can help them the majority of the time. It'd be nice if there was some sort of local vegan support network wherever you are in the world you can find someone who's made it work for themselves and they can help you, you know. Maybe that's a good bit of outreach for people who are genuinely ready to change. Let's do it, let's make it happen. Meat has a high density of energy which can be useful. Okay. So do humans. I mean, that's not really where we draw the line, is it? High density of energy which can be useful. Use something else, eat some beans. God. I reduce my consumption of animal products but not fully vegan, focused on environment, not compassion. Okay, but if you care about the environment, maybe you should go fully vegan. And would that not still lean into one of these other answers? Just not compassionate towards animals is the answer. I don't care about animals, care about the environment instead, I guess is the answer. It's weird. But then why not go fully vegan? Is it because you also think it's expensive? Whatever, I mean, it's good for the environment, so just do it. Already vegan. Cheers, mate. Mum says I can't be. That is devastating. That's heartbreaking. That does make me sad. I hope this person moves out and manages to form their own life. If there are parents who force their children to eat animal products when the child recognises that they're abusive, I really hope that these parents are aware of how much damage they're doing to their relationship with their children. My parents are very supportive. I don't live with them anymore, haven't for a long time. But if when I lived with them, well, I mean, I was vegetarian when I lived with them, you know, I later went vegan. But if when I lived with them, they had forced me to consume meat, it made me eat animals' flesh when I knew it was wrong, I wouldn't have a relationship with them now. There is no way I could tolerate that level of... I mean, it is abusive, it's disrespectful. And I mean, I know some people think that some people do correlate veganism with restrictive eating, but I really think that forcing someone to eat something against their will is a very dangerous road towards some restrictive eating patterns, because one of the root triggers for some eating disorders is the desire and the need for control, and the resistance of authority or a world that feels out of their control in other ways. So forcing someone to eat things that are traumatic for them to eat because they rightfully link it to animal abuse, that can bring about a really unhealthy relationship with food in the future, and it can bring about a really unhealthy relationship with parents too. So I do hope, I mean, I hope this person's okay, I hope this person gets out into the world and forms their own way, but I really hope that this mother realises how much damage she's doing, potentially. I know it would be damaging to the relationship with me and my mum. Wow. So here's a good one. I'm a doctor, and I can tell you that the human body must consume meat to function to function properly. Don't believe who tells you otherwise. Well, I haven't eaten any meat. I mean, I've not been a vegan quite as long as this because I was a vegetarian first, but I haven't eaten any meat in 22 years. So thank you, stranger, whose entire qualification for being a doctor seems to be hinged on the fact that they can type the words, I am a doctor. But I won't be listening to you. I will be listening to other doctors who've told me that it's fine. I will be listening to the general medical consensus that it's fine, and I will be listening to all the other people who have lived long and happy lives without dying because they didn't consume that which they must consume. No, thank you. Thanks for your input, but I think you could have just ticked the box that says you don't think you can be healthy as a vegan. So it's like, tick the box to give the answer, but type the aggressive, controlling, dictatorial for me, that's like, oh, this isn't just because I'm answering a survey, that's for you. I want you to read this, you know? Thanks, but that's just you don't think you can be healthy, which is unfortunate because you've been through so much education. If you're telling me the truth, which you're not, but you've been through so much education. To become a doctor, I'm surprised that you've not figured this one out yet. I mean, you never just looked around and thought, oh, those vegetarians are alive. Look at those vegans living. Brilliant. I believe it's impossible to advocate for better farming practices. If I remove myself as a stakeholder, I would prefer to buy ethically produced animal products to encourage better practices. This person's advocating for better practices, but what I would say is, I appreciate that you want to minimise animal suffering. I think you've really got to get past that point where you're just trying to protect yourself too much from having to make any kind of compromise or sacrifice. I don't think you would ever reach a point that would actually be a good... I mean, I don't know what this person means by better practices, but there really isn't a way of getting animal products from an animal, whether that's literally taking the flesh off their body or the awful things that we do to cows in the dairy process. You can't possibly get that stuff in a way that we would actually consider to be an acceptable level of abuse. You can't. Well, definitely not something that you'd call ethically produced. It's not attainable. That's not real. You can't ethically produce someone's leg. It's never going to happen. So if that's what you want, the only ethically produced animal products are the alternatives. And they're not animal products, so come be vegan. It's fine. Come into my small world. And this is a fun one. These answers are so biased, it's pretty funny. And I've got to agree, I guess it is, because the really funny thing is, I really thought I wasn't being biased. The funny thing is, I sat down and I wrote these out and I thought, what would be a really plain and non-inflammatory way of writing these answers? And I thought, I'll just stick to really matter-of-fact statements. But it's still biased. In the eyes of a meat eater. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it's biased? I honestly, I mean, I toned them down. I've obviously, but this is why I've kind of reached out to Canvas Opinions, because I do live in my little vegan world, and I can't influence and help people to see why they should go vegan if I don't understand where they're coming from. So I wanted to canvass some opinions and see what people really think. And ooh, it's interesting. I think animal agriculture should be done in a more humane way, and the methods they use are ethically wrong. I'd rather support ethically sourced animal products than become vegan. If you want to support ethically sourced animal products, you will become vegan because they don't exist. I'm 16, so it's not practical. I'm really sorry to hear that. I mean, it is. You can have it at the age of 16, but if you mean, you know, living with family or, you know, a parent controlling your meals or whatever, then that makes me sad. I'm vegan, by the way. Well, you're wonderful. You're an angel, and I hope you live forever. Oh, not in a tormented way. I hope you live a long and full and happy life, and all of your wildest dreams come true. I'm just a very picky eater. Yeah, I'll pick at something that isn't a corpse. We'll figure it out for you. I live in a food desert. Vegan options are not available. See, that's another one that makes me sad, because if it's that plus one of the other responses, then it's excuses, possibly, you know? But if this is a person who genuinely lives in a food desert and really wants to go vegan and they don't want to hurt animals, but they literally do not have options other than hurting animals, then, again, that makes me really sad. I think in that situation, I'd be completely devastated if every time I sat down to a meal, I looked at a body and thought, I don't want to feed on this body. That's devastating. I think that's something we need to change, because if there are people out there who who really don't want to hurt animals but feel forced. They feel like they're forced into it by their circumstances. I want to help those people, and there should be options available for them. And again, this is something that if we had a network of vegan assistance for people who wanted the support, and I mean, there's communities like Reddit, but I guess not everyone's necessarily as aware, or I don't know. I just think if you live in a food desert, reach out, because I just don't think a vegan's ever going to say, no, I'm not going to give you advice, I can't be bothered. They'd be very excited. Anyone who's come to me in my life with sort of wanting to know a little bit more about how to go vegan, honestly, it lights up my day to give advice and help someone, because the idea that your choices are hidden from you is devastating to me. And if I can help you to realise those choices, that's very exciting. And I love it. I kind of live for it a little bit. Reach out to ask. Let's empower ourselves to be the people that we really actually want to be. Question 5. If 50% of people adopted a vegan lifestyle, would you join them? Pretty obvious what the outcome there is. So 77% of people said no, that wouldn't influence them. Only 15% said yes, and 7.5% said it would need to be higher than 50%. I actually think this is a lie. I absolutely think this is a lie. Oh, by the way, both of the vegans answered yes, so that's even fewer that say yes. And I do think this is an absolute lie, because if 50% of the people that you lived around did not eat animal products, did not consume, did not use animal products on the basis that they thought that it was wrong and immoral to do, you definitely would not stomach that level of social rejection. You would not want to be among the 50% of people that did an evil thing. You wouldn't want to be among the 50% of people who the other 50% of people thought were immoral. There is no way that 77.5% of people would not care that 50% of the people despise them or despise what they did. It's not about who you are, it's about what you do. And I think that would be enough to influence people. But people don't. I understand that people find it hard to admit that. If you have to admit to yourself that it's people doing it for you to change, then you kind of think, oh, why aren't I changing then? How, like, to the people who said yes, who weren't the 4 people who said yes, or even the three people who said it would need to be higher, you kind of think, well, what you'd do if everyone else was doing it, so have some integrity and just do it. Anyway, those are the results. That's what I found, and I don't know, I kind of want to use this information just to help me gauge where we're at with them. Yeah, I mean, my motivation for this was to see if we could just bypass everyone changing their minds individually and go straight to changing the law. But obviously we've got a bit of a way to go with that. I mean, I knew that's what was going to happen anyways, off in numbers, what people really thought about it. If there was a vote tomorrow, what would people do? I wish it was higher, and in order to get it higher, we've got to win people over to our side. And in order to win people over our side, we've got to defeat these statements. And this is massive. A lot of these other things are kind of just bolted on to this. You've got to make people care. I don't think I've learned anything that I didn't already suspect, but it's been interesting, it's been useful, because I don't otherwise get a lot of input from non-vegans, so now I have. And doctors. Anyway, cool. Nice talking it through with you. Take care.